So today's project will be making occlusal rims from your previous record base you made. So this record base, I just happened to make it in triad, but for your project, you'll be making it on top of your ortho resin. And you guys made this with the ortho resin, and once you do the salt and pepper and put it in on the warm water bath with pressure on it, this is what you'll get. You could see the alley wax is embedded into the ortho resin, and you do not need to remove the alley wax out. Just leave everything in because you want to be able to capture all the anatomy, the detail as much as possible for retention when you try it in. So leave the alley wax in, and you could see the adaptation is very good. Okay, and you could see my ortho resin ends at the inner aspect of the land area. It shouldn't be coming out, or it shouldn't be short of it. It should be filled all the vestibule or the mucobuccal fold. Okay, and that's the only way to get retention of your record base. If your record base is short of it, you won't get a good of a retention. So make sure it's filled in inside the land area. Okay, that's one of the, I see this a lot in clinic where the inside of the vestibule is not filled. So your record base basically should look like a final denture, except there's no teeth, of course. Okay? So once you have a good record base, your next step would be to make an occlusal rim. And basically for an occlusal rim, we'll need to use wax, base plate wax. And there's two kinds in our school we have. One is for setting wax and one is a base plate wax. One is more a light color and more, the other one is more like a red or pink. Or, for this project, we'll be using the red one, not the pink one. Okay? So once you have this, the first step you would want to do is I'm going to turn on my length burner. Okay, I'm going to use my length burner, and I want to take out 1/3 of it out. Okay, so cutting it in 1/3. And now I have this piece here. Okay, next, what I'll be doing is, you can see my flame here, I'm going to heat my wax on both directions. And then what I'm doing now is I'm folding it. Okay, you can see here how I folded it like that. So I'm going to continue doing that. And heat the wax again. It's important that you heat it as you roll it, so that way it'll fuse each other and create less bubble. Okay, if you start rolling it without heating it, later on you'll have bubbles in between. So make sure you heat those wax in between while you're rolling it. Okay, once I have a complete roll here, okay, see now I can see the roll here. What I'm basically going to do is leave this on the side and then come back to my master cast from my upper, and I'm going to add something called sticky wax. You guys have this in clinic. Okay. It's yellow, it's basically wax, but it's sticky. That's why we call it the sticky wax. And what you can do is heat your number 7 wax spatula and heat the round portion, and then you could gently apply some yellow sticky wax and then apply it where the ridge is. One important thing that I didn't show you is once you make the record base is grinding where the ridge is. Make sure you grind the ridge to 1 millimeter, not the periphery or the palate, but just where the ridge is. I want you to grind it to 1 millimeter. And that's important because later on when you start setting teeth, it gives you enough room so that way you don't need to grind the teeth or you don't have to come back and grind the record base at later time. So make sure you grind that, and it's important in clinic to you do that, to grind the ridge. Coming back to your wax, okay, which is going to be your future rim. And what you need to do is basically what I did is made it like a horseshoe, like a U shape, so that way I could put it where my sticky wax is, right above the ridge, just like that. So trying to shape it general so that way it adapts well. And what you need to do is basically apply on it. The sticky wax will help. And what I'm doing now is with my alcohol torch is hitting my sticky wax, because I know my sticky wax is hardened, so I want to melt that. Okay, and I want to melt the inside of my record Occlusal rim, so that way it helps bond to the record base. Okay, sticky wax will help you just stay better, so that way the Occlusal rim will stay on. See, basically I'm just gently applying to it, just trying to get the general shape, and we'll go into detail on the dimensions of the rim. Okay, so first I want you to kind of add it where the ridge is, and what you want to do is you don't want too much wax beyond the tuberosity. Okay, so you want to cut any wax past the tuberosity, because we're not going to set teeth where the tuberosity is. This occlusal rim basically represents where your future teeth should be. Okay, and also this occlusal rim will help you mount the cast on the articulator, which we will go into detail. Okay, once you have adapted to the record base, now we have to go with the dimensions. The first dimension you should look into is the height. Okay. Now I said the occlusal rim is a future reference for your teeth. And they found that average, this is a very average, that for this project especially, I want you to make sure from the deepest portion of your record base to your incisal edge position of your occlusal rim should roughly be 22. Okay? So for this project, you'll need to use a Bowley gauge, and I'm going to do it at 22. I'm going to lock it up here. This is 22, and from the deepest portion to the occlusal rim. Okay, see if you guys could see here. Let's see, this camera, it's hard, difficult. There you go. So you want that 22 right there. As you can see, my occlusal rim is overextended. Your next step is to use something called a rim former. Basically, it's like a hot plate, but we call it the rim former or occlusal plane former. Okay? And what you need to do is heat it up. Okay? First, it is going to cause a lot of mess, so you make sure you have some kind of paper towel beneath it, especially when you do this project. And what you need to do is, here's my length burner. Okay. And basically, I'm heating my hot plate or rim former. Okay. At first, it'll take a while to heat the metal. Okay, so I'm just heating it up. And once I heat it, I'm basically, see how I'm doing it sideways here? I'm heating my occlusal rim up and down. Try to make it as parallel as possible. See how it becomes a very mess here, so make sure you have a towel there. Okay, and then you don't want to overdo it, just gently do it. And place it on the side, and then measure if you have 22. Okay, I still have a millimeter to go. And then on the back, where the molar region is, should be roughly around 15. It's 14 to 15 millimeters in the back. Okay, so 22 and 15 on the back. Okay. Just a little bit more. So I have roughly 22 in the front, and then let's see from the back. And you have to watch as you're doing it because there's a tendency to over-reduce one part and the other part is high. So as you melt it, make sure you look at both sides so you could melt it evenly around. Okay? Once you have those measurements, 15 and 22, now what you need to do is blend in the record base with the occlusal rim. So I'm just shaping it so that way it looks much nicer on the facial aspect and the buccal aspect. Okay. Your next step is to do your width now, because these occlusal rims have different width. What you want is roughly 3 to 4 millimeters in the anterior teeth, and you roughly want more like 5 or 6 at the back. Okay, so it's much more thinner in the front. And you could use a buffalo knife or a scalpel, and then you just take off the anterior teeth, because you don't need that much width. See how I did that? Here, I just want to show you. Okay. And also the other aspect of I want you to look at is the facial aspect of your occlusal rim. Right here, the facial from canine to canine. This facial aspect should roughly follow the inner aspect of your land area. Right here. See how I drew it in red? I don't know if you could see, but you could see that in red, the inner aspect of the land area, that's where your anterior rim should follow. Okay? So it should follow not only the contour, but also the inner aspect of it. That's where the rim should be. So when you look at it from the occlusal view, it should follow that area. Okay? If it doesn't, this pink wax, it's very moldable, so you could literally push it out and do that. Okay, so I want you to do that for this project. Make sure it follows the outline, just roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay, so once that's done, let's focus on the lower. The lower is the same thing. The first thing I would recommend the lower, you need some references. Okay, and I pre-drew this for this here. And what you want is, I'm going to put the flame on the side. And let me see if I could get you a little closer here to see. If you look at this cast here, the first step you should do is, let's see if there you go. Make a circle with the red pencil where the retromolar pad is. And you can see there's going to be a distinct area that kind of sticks out. So make a circle on the retromolar pad on both sides. And then next thing you need to do is draw the mid of the retromolar pad. So 1/2 of it, draw it. And what you need to do is use a ruler and extend that 1/2 out to the land area and draw that same red pencil. Okay, see the red pencil line here at the side here? Same thing on the other side, see this red pencil? Basically what I did is extended my midline of the retromolar pad out to the land area. Okay, so once that's done, the next step is determine where the midline is buccolingually. So basically where the crest of the ridge. And I want you to extend that outside to the land area here too. And then do the same thing at the other side. Okay? So this is the middle of the ridge. And it comes out to the land area and extend it out. So now you have 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next I want you to do is get one of the rulers and place it where the center of the ridge is. Okay, from the line you drew on the land area, and then follow the center of the ridge and see how it extends out. And you could see my red line here in the front. So that red line, what it is the continuation from the straight and following the ridge and goes right. point here. Same, I drew it out here. It follows the straight line where the ridge is, and I just extended it out and drew it at the land area. Okay? So now you have 6 marks. So you should do this in any case, even in clinics. You should have these landmarks because these references will give you where to set teeth or even where to set your occlusal rims. Once you have that, the next step will be to make the occlusal rims. So I'm going to place this back. Let's see if I could, so you can see here. And we'll do the same thing. Use a pink wax. Cut 1/3 off. Okay, here you go. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm heating up my wax on both sides and rolling it. And you can see I'm rolling one at a time. I'm not just keep rolling it because I want to be able to heat it so the wax could blend in together. And roll it. So once I have that rolled, okay, again, I'm going to add some sticky wax onto my cast where my ridge is. Since that's my sticky wax is added, I'm just going to heat my sticky wax a little bit so it'll melt. And then roughly, I'm just going to start molding my occlusal rim that follows the crest of the ridge here. Okay, and then any excess, I'm going to cut out. Okay, so this occlusal rim should follow the ridge on the lower. The maxillary, it doesn't have to follow the ridge on the posterior. The anterior should, but the posterior, a lot of times it's actually outside of the ridge. But the mandible, you would want to set the teeth as close as possible where the ridge is. Okay. Okay. So once you have a basic form, now we have to start the measurements. Okay, and we'll talk about that now. The measurements, how it should work is the anterior region should be roughly 14 to 15, okay, where the incisors are from your depth of your vestibule should be roughly around 14 to 16 here. On the back, there isn't really a measurement. Instead, you'll be using that red reference point you made earlier, and it's going to be that 1/2 mark of the retromolar pad, the red line. So that's going to be your reference as far as height goes. You can see here, my occlusal rim on the posterior is going to end where that red line is. Okay, and anteriorly, it's going to end 14 to 15. So you need those two references to have the occlusal height. Okay, so let's work on that. You could see here, and this time I'm just melting it with my cast on it so that way so I don't over trim it and see where my retromolar pad is. Okay, I think I got it here. Okay, good. So I wasn't too off because I'm already right at the red line on the posterior. However, the anterior, I'm going to have to measure that. So let's see if I have that 14 to 15. Okay, so I'm at 14. So I'm at good in the anterior. So 14 in the anterior, and then in the back, it should be like 1/2 the retromolar pad height goes. So I'm cutting the back off because I don't need it that far up. I'm not going to set teeth. The posterior extent of the teeth should end right before your ridge ascends. If you look at carefully on the mandibular ridge here, see, you can see how it's straight and all of a sudden it starts to ascend. So you don't want to set teeth where it starts to ascend here. So my posterior extent of the teeth will end right at before it ascends. So I just need occlusal rims up to here. I don't need it up here. Okay. All right, and we're done here. And then the measurements, same thing, 3 to 4, 5, and then 6 in the posterior. And then you could just use your Bowley gauge and to measure that. Okay, so that's it.